New Partnership for Africa's Development is a vision of the leaders of our continent who deem it necessary that Africa must approach or confront its own challenges by themselves, by Africans, champion their development and growth by Africans.
As a process, development is dynamic, and most often, the processes undertaken are just as important as the outcome. With a rather expansive understanding of Nigeria's development challenges, the African Union Development Agency, New Partnership for Africa's Development, realizes that turning the tide requires feasible strategies, focus, and grit. Most of Nigeria's subsisting development challenges are patent. From the devastating impact of climate change to the economic strains occasioned by the COVID-19 pandemic and food scarcity, insecurity, and other forms of conflicts, Nigeria, like most parts of Africa, became the melting pot for environmental, social, political, and economic crises in need of immediate national, continental, and international interventions. The lingering presence of some underlying factors entrenching poverty, as well as growing infrastructural deficit, caused by a rising population, exacerbates the crises, thus amplifying the urgency for intervention.
We must commend the initiative of the then heads of states and government that gave the initiative from Organization of African Union to African Union, from there creating an agency like NEPAD, New Partnership for Africa's Development, to drive and implement the visions of our leaders.
Nigeria and other African countries are in the thicks of the crises. Yet, as source and victim, the continent is now emerging with solutions through the New Partnership for African Development, NEPAD, that subsequently reformed into the African Union Development Agency, AUDA-NEPAD.
Since our decision to establish the African Union Development Agency here in Nigeria, government has been implementing programs and policies that focus on the domestication of the African Union Development Agency reforms. We constituted a repositioning committee on African Union Development Agency, whose terms of reference is to restructure and reposition NEPAD, taking into account our local laws and regulations to African Union Development Agency.
It is a reformation for standardization that positioned the agency as a unique response tool for efficient operations and effective service delivery in countries in Nigeria.
It integrates member states into the visions and objective of the leaders, which in a nutshell is about good governance. It's about development. It's about all forms or criteria that can improve good governance in our continent. So NEPAD is strategically positioned for economic growth and development.
Interventions by AUDA-NEPAD in Nigeria are focused on critical thematic areas, including the Sustainable Development Goals 2030 and the African Union Agenda 2063. These include combating anti-corruption, illicit financial flows, challenges of migration, and advocacy for return of stolen assets from Africa. Other key thematic areas of intervention include bridging infrastructural gap, promoting good governance, creating and engendering partnerships, as well as building a post-COVID-19 resilience in Nigeria. As Nigeria struggles to deal with the economic impact of the pandemic, AUDA-NEPAD adapted to the new normal by responding promptly to COVID-19 emergencies. The responses were centered on 5 key priority areas, including strengthening food systems, health, agriculture, entrepreneurship, water, and energy. Most of the interventions initiated by the agency and currently ongoing are targeted towards food security, job creation, healthy living, trade, and entrepreneurship promotion. Other major objectives of the agency are aimed towards curbing restiveness and building the capacity of smallholder farmers. The Smallholder Farmer Empowerment Initiative is in line with the Comprehensive African Agricultural Program. It is also meant to address the Zero Hunger target captured in the Sustainable Development Goal 2, which aims to end hunger and all forms of malnutrition by 2030.
So what we try to do is to use this particular project, 1, for restoration measures, 2, to address the environmental challenges, 3, to create jobs, 4, to address the food scarcity, hunger at a time like this, and number 5, to make sure to encourage development and economic growth. In return, that will bring support the growth of our GDP, create jobs, and address the menace, that's the insecurity or youth restiveness, both at the community level and across the country.
I remember during the training, they teach us how we can preserve the crops so that it can be a year-round thing, and there will be food security, there will be abundance of food because of new practices that they taught us and they are going to learn.
So its importance could not be emphasized because it will definitely bring up a lot of these peasant farmers out of poverty into the wealth.
There are several ongoing interventions by the agency geared towards building capacity and empowering the smallholder farmer in Nigeria. A leading example is the training of thousands of smallholder farmers and herders in the country in the application of Juncow technology, a Chinese agricultural initiative for growing mushrooms to curb desertification. The technology focuses on growing mushrooms without damaging the environment, while growing and processing healthy grasses with balanced nutrients for productive and commercial livestock farming. It would, in the process, create opportunities for other value chain ventures and create jobs for the teeming youths.
All we're trying to do is to enhance what is going on, irrespective of the predictions. Yes, it's possible to predict because of COVID-19. Yes, that gave setback to certain point, but then with all these innovative ideas, is to recover from where we're coming from. Recover from pandemic, stay strong, stay together, go back to do what we know how to do best.
Nigeria was chosen in the West African sub-region as pilot for the Smallholder Farmers Initiative, with 23 states currently participating. In the ultimate agenda, the plan is to fast-track the reclamation of more than 1 million hectares of desert land and training of 120,000 participating farmers.
The moribund land in Africa can feed the world, whether we like it or not. Africa remains the next destination for global economic boost. And the way to go is to harness the talent of Africa, to harness the population of Africa, to make use of the land space in Africa, to invest heavily in Africa, to encourage the young farmers, the small farmers, to harness the energy of the young people of Africa for productivity in terms of technology, in terms of food production, in terms of ICT information, in terms of industrialization.
Another target area where AUDA-NEPAD has a strong foothold in Nigeria, is in engendering good governance. One of the major milestones in this area is the draft of a national program of action that addresses challenges of governance in the country. Within this context, the agency appears quite grounded by virtue of its coordination of the activities of the African peer review mechanism in Nigeria. Nigeria was first peer-reviewed in 2008 and has undergone its second review in 2022, in line with the African Union Review Guideline, at the instance of the endorsement of the Peer Review Memorandum of Understanding by the President.
Nigeria has made significant progress. Since its inception, this government has further pursued with vigor programs that promote democratic values, participatory governance, and probity in public life. We introduce policies, programs, and projects that focus on creating an inclusive and diversified economy, eliminating corruption, and restoring peace to conflict areas.
The review produced a country self-assessment report and country review report after a successful validation exercise and final production of the National Program of Action, which is a framework for the implementation of the country review report recommendations.
It was carried out last in 2008, and what that means to us is statistics of whom we really are, where we're coming from, where we are today, and where we're heading to. How do we shape the future for the Nigeria or the Africa we want? So we need to really take proper statistics of our development model, or what we achieved before, our gap analysis, and then use it to put together way forward.
Whether it is the collaborations to foster democracy and good governance, or its interventions on building economic resilience for the poor and vulnerable, AUDA-NEPAD is focused on delivering its mandate of engendering national development in Nigeria by exploring a combination of homegrown solution approaches and international support. It is making significant gains in this direction in its partnership for peace and security in Nigeria, utilizing its early warning mechanism for conflict prevention. It is in tandem with the implementation of the outcome of the joint United Nations African Union framework for enhanced partnership in peace and security, as well as in realization of Aspiration 4 of the AU Agenda 2063 for a peaceful and secure Africa.
We are also pleased that the country has implemented and addressed most of the panel's recommendations made in the first review report. For instance, the country has made reforms in the electoral system, including strengthening of the independence and capacity of the electoral management bodies. The country has had the legislative amendment to the absence of elected executives with a view to averting immediate or future political crises in such situations.
In the early days of 2019, the agency, in collaboration with Nigeria's Independent National Electoral Commission and relevant stakeholders, launched a violence-free and peaceful election sensitization campaign in the country. It has reignited its campaigns as another national election looms in Nigeria to further promote good governance in line with the AU agenda on silencing the guns by creating awareness on the management of democratic order and building confidence in the electoral process.
I am proud to say that the little effort that we did helped in galvanizing Nigerians to realize that even after election, there will still be Nigeria. And it is better to have a better Nigeria than a tattered Nigeria.
AUDA-NEPAD Nigeria is walking the talk, and Nigeria is better for its interventions.